All right. Good evening, folks. Welcome to a very organic episode of vBrownBag this evening. This evening, we are going to talk with the newest member of the worldwide technology family, Shala Warner. Shala, welcome to the show.
Hello.
And this evening, we are going to talk about her learning process for transitioning from networking and going into the cloud. Before we get into it, though, let's do the house show notes. If you want to get in on the conversation, I will be paying attention to the Twitter handle at vBrownBag or hashtag vBrownBag. So if you have a question and you want to pose it, feel free to pose it in there. Or if you are in the live studio audience, feel free to drop something into the chat channel or the Q&A channel. I will be monitoring all of the things as your host this evening. Once again, if you follow people on the internet, I highly recommend following at Gifted Lane. Shala has some really good commentary on the things that she's learning. Her process is meticulous. Like when she decides to learn something, she not only graphs the entire thing out in this wonderful learning process. She then shares all of it online. So you can see how to pick things up and check her out. And of course, my name is Chris Williams. I discourage you from following me at mistwire.com. Don't do it. It's nothing but cat pictures and recently sharks and videos of my vacation. So nothing, you're not going to learn anything good there. So Shala, welcome to the show.
Hello.
So do you want to go through exactly what happened and why this is going to be a very organic episode of vBrownBag?
Yeah, I love doing that. So, which is something, I mean, like anyone who's ever seen any of my Twitch streams, it is unscripted, and what happens. And tonight's one of those things where it's right here on the floor. So my iMac just completely died on me. I had like my nice little slides. I had some graphics going on and, all that kind of stuff. And it just died. But it's been doing that ever since I've upgraded to the latest OS. I've noticed it's not happy.
Oh, to Monterey?
Yeah, it's not liking it. And that just means now I have to go IT my own stuff over the weekend. There's the cat.
So she just made a drive-by beeping. This is Beep. She is the newest member of the Mistwire family, and this is her first time on vBrownBag. So I thought that I would she has just learned to jump up onto the desk, and now she's playing with my my Stream Deck. We might be getting funny noises as a result of her finding the buttons.
That's funny.
Sorry. Whenever a kitten shows up, everybody has to stop and pay attention.
That's the thing with cats, because I was always like a dog person until I took in a stray cat, and then I was like, you know what, cats are actually pretty awesome. It's just a different kind of love from cats. They're nice. Cats rule. I mean, they take care of themselves. Like it's just great.
Totally different energy too.
Yep.
It's not, you don't have to walk them. They've got their own thing going on. Oh, you know what? Let's get back to you. So
yes. That's true.
Sorry about that. I got derailed by the kitten.
That's what cats do.
They do. They love the attention. Between that and the comfy, we're never going to get any of this done. All right. So I was wanting to learn more about your process. Now, full disclosure for everybody in the audience, Shala just came on to Worldwide Technology. She is on my team with me. I feel bad for her to have to deal with me on a daily basis like this. It's going to be terrible. And this was precipitated by
we feel bad for her.
We feel bad. This was precipitated by our online relationship. You and I met a year ago, and we were like, oh, cool, you like AWS, I like AWS, and we just started like sharing like learning resources and going back and forth with the different things. And then you were like, hey, how do I get a cloud engineer job? And I was like, okay, do this, this, and this. And
Yes.
and now you're in the process of doing this, this, and this. And now we're here to talk about it. So
yes.
go.
All right. All right, that's exactly what happened. So for anyone where it's just like, okay, once I decided I wanted to make that pivot from networking, because I got my CCNA and my next logical step was the CCNP, but then I realized that I was not being pulled in by the CCNP information. Like CCNA was fantastic. It was fun, had tons of fun with it. CCNP, I just wasn't. And so I had to have what I like to call a come to Jesus moment where it's just like, maybe this isn't what you want to do. And I started looking at Cisco DevNet, which got me looking into different cloud technologies like Docker and understanding what containers are, creating APIs, all this kind of stuff. And so that's when I was just like, wait, I think it's officially time for me to spend time learning the cloud and getting into that. And so what I did was I reached out to my cloud buddies who I like to think of as mentors. That would be you, Chris. And then
not just me, there's a bunch of folks out there.
Yeah. There's Kyle Bart, there's Lab Every Day. Those are like the three, right? And so that I tend to talk to. And so I was just like, first I was like, hey Chris, you know what, like how do I start learning like AWS? And then you gave me a course recommendation, and then I got the same recommendation from Lab Every Day as well, and from Dewan. And so I checked out the course, which I had already started checking it out when she recommended it to me, because I was like, well, if Chris is saying check this out, I'm gonna go check it out. And I fell in love with the course. Like the material's good. Right off the bat, you start doing hands-on stuff in AWS. And so that just led me to like falling in love with AWS. And then I was just like, yo, this is what I want to do. And so my start was basically just finding a good course recommendation that I happen to like. And that's how I chose AWS, because I do get, go ahead.
That was the Cantrell course, right? Was it Adrian's course?
Adrian's course.
Okay.
Yeah. I love that course. Because I do get asked a lot, like, well, why did you do AWS versus Azure versus Google Cloud? And that's really what it was. It was just the first course that I fell in love with. It happened to be AWS, so that's what I went with. And originally I was going to do Azure because the company I was working for uses Azure, but Azure didn't pull me in. But I think that was just more so because of not that the Microsoft site doesn't have good content, it's just the fundamentals course just wasn't pulling me in like that. Like Adrian's course was with AWS. So yeah, that's how I chose AWS.
Nice. Okay. And so now that you've been going down this path, you've had the, oh, hi. This is gonna be a running theme. Oh, now she's laying down. Okay, I can live with this. All right. So you're starting doing the studying. You're going to be sitting the AWS Solutions Architect Associate
correct
soon, and so let's get into it. What have you learned? What's your process?
So my favorite part is because I have it like right here. My little notes, like this is literally how I like brainstorm and study and like create stuff. So just like that. And so basically my favorite part is the moment I started studying for SAA, everything that I've done in my networking job previously, and then my CCNA studies was right there with AWS, like from the jump. I was talking about subnetting, reserved IPs and stuff like that. Like I learned so with AWS, and I'm hearing whether it's AWS, Google, or Azure, they all have reserved IPs. But I thought it was funny because I remember during CCNA days, you had to remember, out of each subnet, you had 2 reserved IP addresses, which was, the network ID and then the broadcast ID. And then with AWS, they actually take 4.
5.
It's a 5 total, right? So, and there's like various reasons and stuff like that. So I really appreciated that, where it's not me. Yeah, networking for me is, my theme now is networking rules everything around me, because you can't really get away from it. So that part was cool because it meant like I wasn't ditching my networking knowledge or experience. I was just evolving it to something new.
Right, exactly.
And so that's the fun part about that.
And
that's one thing I learned.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's one thing I learned. Go ahead.
And then with the DevNet stuff, I mean, that will transition into, all of the development stuff that that we're gonna be able to do in AWS as well.
Correct.
This morning you tweeted about how your conversation this morning was about CI/CD and lambdas, and you had a little lady crying emoji because crying from happiness, and I was just like, oh, this is awesome.
Exactly. Because I did take like a little pit stop from networking to desktop support, because at the time when I needed to find work, that's what was hiring. And so it's like, oh man, I'm not having conversations about a broken battery anymore. Like,
no, now you're having conversations about your crashed Mac and your and that's why you have DR, kids. OneDrive. What?
Yes. Yes. And so what's messed up is, because this is the iMac and I was making the presentation, the slides and stuff was in Keynote. Well, my default, since that one died on me, is a Windows machine. So they don't talk to each other. So it's a cloud sitting there for me to grab, but my Windows is like, what do you want me to do with this?
I have nothing. No, I'm not going to do anything. Okay.
It's like whatever. But yeah, so I learned that. And I'm really happy about that, because that's something I see come up a lot too, is a question I get asked all the time. And I see the conversations where it's just like, if you want to go into cloud, like, do you need to know networking? I'm going to say I don't want to be like, yes, you need to know networking, but I'm going to say, I'm glad I know networking. It helped my ramp up time like tremendously, because you still have to deal with the whole say like if you're working with VPCs, you still need to create your subnets, and you need to create them properly. You need to understand route tables, how you set that up and stuff like that.
Right.
And I don't have to spend a bunch of extra time learning that. I'm really just learning, okay, how do I do it in AWS? Because it's different than the traditional networking I was doing. Because I'm not going to like a physical switch and, going to like Cisco command line, typing it in. It's, in AWS, so it's done differently.
Right, because you're not having to, like within ENI, you got your internal IP address, you got your external IP address. And the reasons behind all of that, and then you got your NAT gateway. You're not having to learn all of that crap. You just know that there's an ENI with an internal and an external IP address, and then you just move on from there. So you've got a leg up on the competition that are just starting off fresh.
Yeah. So my recommendation is, if you're going to go into cloud, and it may not even be like, you going for the cert or whatever, but at least do like a network plus, course or something like that, and at least get that knowledge, get that foundation. And that way your jump to cloud will be easier, because you're not trying to learn cloud and networking at the same time. Because I feel like that's exactly what's going to happen.
Would you recommend that even for like developers that just write code and throw it up on Elastic Beanstalk and basically don't care about the architecture?
Right. I think it's a good idea, because, for me, especially like even during my software developer days, it helps knowing some of that stuff, because sometimes when you're coding your applications and stuff, you need to understand ports and, that whole process. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I would say so. It
Okay.
doesn't hurt.
Okay. So where else do you want to take us in the journey? I know you got your notes there. And so
I do.
I can give you questions, or we can go with the notes, or however you want to do this.
Right. So let's see. You know what the biggest thing about jumping to AWS and doing this whole learning journey is actually relearning how to learn. I've had to spend time with that, because this learning journey, I've had to actually like structure how I want to learn, because with CCNA, that was like kind of like an easy journey in terms of learning stuff, because all I had to do was just focus on the CCNA content or the course I was using. But with AWS, what happens is I have the course content, but as I'm going through these different things and stuff like that, I am, my attention's being grabbed by like, oh man, I want to start learning Terraform, or I want to start learning Docker, or okay, what exactly are containers and Kubernetes? And there's just like all this stuff. And so I've had to structure myself where I'm like, okay, I'm realizing, oh, Lambda, Python, like this is what happens as I'm studying. I'm like, crap, there's like all this stuff, and I want to start learning it and all that. And so what I've learned is to like, go ahead, mark down those things that I'm realizing I also need to know. So I have a list of it. And then, once I get through the SAA, then I can go ahead and start learning those things individually. So that's been a thing, is relearning how to learn. But now I'm using like a ClickUp app and stuff like that. That's really good for keeping me structured and stuff like that. It's helping big time. It's actually changed my learning game.
A ClickUp app? What is that?
Yeah, so ClickUp app. I don't know, like, can I share my screen?
You absolutely can. Of course you can.
Right. Hold on. Let me see. Let me pull up. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Can I share my screen? Of course you can. You can do anything you want here.
All right, I'm waiting for it to load. There it goes. Okay. Let's see. Where's it at? I'm looking for how to share my screen. Oh, there it is. It's a big green button.
Squeak.
Let's do. Right. Sure. Okay, let me know if you can see it.
I can see your screen.
Cool. So this is the ClickUp app, and this is how I'm structuring my studies. And basically, I have this thing called a workspace. Eventually, I'm going to share this out so it could be like a template for other people to use however they want. But basically, I'm going for the SAA, which is this one here. And I'm structuring this by the videos I actually complete per day. So let's say if we go to day one. Oh, we're on day one. So like day one, I did simple storage, so S3, right? And these are like all the different videos that I watched and stuff like that. And then I'm able to select the type. I created a type column so that way I can tell which one's just a video versus what's a lab. So let's say if I want to filter this, which is what's gonna happen before I do the exam, I'll like filter this by type. And we'll say lab. And what'll happen is like, say like that week or two before I get ready to do the exam, I'm gonna, filter out all the hands-on stuff. I'm gonna run through the hands-on lab and then, go take the test. Because like going through the videos, there's a lot of videos. So it's hard to remember like all the information and stuff like that. But with labs, that's where I tend to like remember stuff.
Nice. And Dennis just posted the link for it. Is it clickup.com?
Yes.
Nice. Very cool.
Yep. And if you follow me on Twitter, I often like repost where they let me share discounts with people. So there's that. But you can use it for free. I think you can create up to like literally 100 items. So like if you create 100 items in a task, that's it until they make you pay for it. But yeah.
Nice. Very cool.
Move this here. And so that's what I do. And then also like it because instead of having notes like all over the place, I'm able to come here and let's say, let's do EC2. EC2 is a beast. There was so much info, but I can just go like right here and I have my notes for stuff that I want to remember. So it's like me creating my own cheat sheets that I can read back over and stuff like that as I like take practice exams and stuff. And I can pull this up on my phone inside the browser. There's a desktop app, so it's readily available, which is nice.
Oh, I remember that video, that picture of the Bob scaling heads thing from Adrian's class. That's funny. Cool.
But yes, that's ClickUp. All right. Let's see what else. Let's see, are there any questions?
Comments, +1 for understanding networking IP, reaffirmations about your study cycle. That's it. No questions though.
Great, cool. So that's how I track my study. The other thing I'm liking and paying attention to with going from networking, like traditional networking to cloud, is the fact that it's virtual versus, locally, which for me is cool because anyone who doesn't know, the networking job I had was for cargo ships that carried oil back and forth across the oceans. And so my end devices were often remote anyway. One of my favorite stories was, and this is something that I keep in mind working with AWS, was things like, if I remoted onto a ship and I was on one of their servers and not paying attention and accidentally click the shutdown button of that server, well, I can't just walk over there and turn it on. And so sometimes, well, actually it happened like once. It was the first week I started that job, which, I didn't have any experience for. But anyways, I called the captain and I was just like, hey, can you walk over to the land rack? And he's like, yeah. You see any of the equipment in there that doesn't have any lights on? He was like, yeah, I do actually. Can you hit that power button for me?
Push the button in there for me.
and that was it. We didn't discuss it. He was just like, oh, okay, just let me know if you need something else. I was like, thank you.
Now, you actually had to helicopter onto ships though at some point, right?
So really what I would do is I actually took a boat. So you have these things called a pilot boat. So depending on where the ships were at and what was going on, they were either at the dock tied up and I could just walk up the ramp that way, which was my preferred way. But 90% of the time they're like out in the middle of the ocean somewhere. And so I had to take a little pilot boat, and I get on the gangway plank from a boat, which was always scary. I always had to psych myself up about, because the boat is like ridiculously tall, right? And so the gangway that you walk up, it's kind of like if you take a ladder and you just like lay it at an angle and then you just like walk up it. And so you're looking at the water and stuff, and then you have to time, getting onto the gangway from the boat because they're doing this because it's the ocean. Like one time, it's unpredictable. So like one time I went to like step down and, the gangway came and met me. I got some bruised ribs that day, but it happens.
Oh man. Wow. Hey, quick question from Dennis. I'm actually trying to like block that out of my head because Hey, now what are you doing? Sorry, kitten break. She's like throwing things around now. As someone with a strong networking background, what have been the AWS concepts that have been the most foreign or the most new to you?
Ooh, thinking about, thinking about things like security groups, right? Versus, because I'm used to dealing with like firewalls and, ACLs, but in AWS, you have to think about, say, like with EC2, you can actually take and apply like a security policy directly to that EC2, but it only allows, like you can only do allows on there, like that kind of thing. So I had to wrap my head around that. And then also still remember to go check like NACLs as far as the ENI, and also thinking about ENI because I'm used to just saying like, either a NIC or interface, but in AWS is, the ENI. So stuff like that. What else? Trying to think. It's interesting because it's like it's the same networking, but it's just done a bit differently. So it's like it always feels familiar, but it also feels different. The biggest thing too for me going into AWS and stuff like that is wrapping my head around all the different services and knowing when to use them and why to use them. I would say that's the biggest thing for me. Yeah, there's no L2. So no L2, no L1, which for me is nice. I don't need to do that anymore, but it's like learning all the services, that part, like EC2, EBS, caring about storage, because traditional networking, I didn't really care about like storage as much. It was kind of like I buy a server, it has this amount of space on it, and that's just kind of what it is. But with AWS, you have to think about like scaling, you have to think about cost. That's another thing wrapping your head around, is because depending on how you store things or do things, you could get a surprise bill, not in a good way. So that's something too.
But you did set up your billing alarms per Adrian's instructions, right?
Yep.
Okay,
That
good.
was the first thing. And I see people and they'll reach out to me and they'll tell me like their stories. And I'm just like, ooh, I'm sorry, the course that you took didn't tell you to do that.
Have Sean Doyle tell you his surprise $3,000 bill story.
That's so much. That's so much. So yeah, paying attention to costs for sure, because you're getting like a monthly bill, and that's a bit different. Oh, also not using the command line as much, at least for me so far. I haven't really touched the command line. I know it exists. I know the different things you could do on it, but a lot of it I have been able to kind of like, for the most part with the course I'm taking, it's kind of done through the GUI. That's a bit different for me because I enjoy the command line. So I'm looking forward to using that a bit more.
And I think that once you get facility with the UI, then switching back to the CLI, getting AWS CLI installed on your system, and yeah. I spend a lot more of my time now manipulating environments with VS Code than I do with the UI. So it's interesting how it like comes full circle, because I start a long time ago. I started my career as a networking person too. My first cert was a CCNA. I did the exact same thing you did, just 30 years ago. Cool. Okay, what's next on your list?
The other thing, is really big for me is the fact that there's a ton of info everywhere. And it gets crazy. And even if you're just like reading the AWS docs, it's a maze. Like I literally have to create bookmarks for myself. So oftentimes you'll see me post a link to my Pinterest that I share with everyone, where I'm like navigating my way through different AWS documentation for myself, as well as if it can help others, because it's like so much stuff. There's so many different things. That's been a challenge. Yeah, I can share my screen again.
There's your giant monitor. Dude,
oh, here.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I could do, let me see, I could type in here. I have a short code for it. That link should take you right to it.
Oh, nice.
And so feel free to follow that, anyone. But as I like find stuff that's helping me prepare for the test and just like learn info, I put it there because it's a lot. Yeah, you need bookmarks for your bookmarks. And so this is actually what I use Pinterest for. I first used Pinterest to curate my wardrobe, is how I online shop for clothes. And then I started using it for study because it has pictures.
Nice.
No, it's not just for cat photos. That's funny.
That's what I use it for. I do not judge. That's also my Insta. So.
Well, yeah, because no judging here. Because the whole reason why I'm on Instagram is because of BTS. So. That's the only reason why I'm on there.
Nice. Okay, cool. What's next on your list?
I talked about going down the rabbit hole. That's just like super easy to do. Oh, AWS and cloud is the first time I actually created a mind map or a career plan, period. And I think it worked because I did get to like, I'm doing cloud now. It made me get focused and follow goals and do this kind of stuff. It also helped me because it helped me come up with a study plan. And I think that helped a lot with anyone who is, trying to get a cloud role. Because I always get asked about like, oh, can you get into cloud without a cert? And it's like, I'm still working on getting a cert. So it's like, if you can come up with a study plan and show that you are at least learning the knowledge and stuff like that, I think that goes a long way. Can we see the mind map? Yeah. Let me see.
You know what's kind of funny?
What's that?
That mind map is was a something that impressed some of your interviewers at Worldwide.
I didn't even know if anyone saw that.
Oh yeah. They saw it and they were like, "Wow, she's really got her stuff together," and that was something that made them realize that you were serious about this. So.
Oh yeah, I'm all in. I am all in. I am pulling it up. Hold on. All right. Opening.
I'm a fan of mind maps for using them for our customers. So when I go in and I do like a migration with somebody or something like that, I have a skeleton mind map where all of the things that I need to think about and I need to consider during the customer's migration.
Yeah.
I'll put a block for that thing so that I don't forget to talk to them about it, whether that be DR or SLAs or RPOs and RTOs. Making sure that I have a mind map to cover everything has been very valuable for me.
That sounds awesome. All right, here it is. Share. Let's do. All right, let me know if you can see it.
We can, yes.
All right, so this is my mind map. Like literally once and this was before, I think this was before I even reached out to you. It was just like, how do I start learning? I first wanted to sit down and make sure, okay, why am I going into the cloud? Like, is it a buzzword I heard and I'm just like doing something just to be doing something? Or, does it make sense? Because if it doesn't, kind of like with CCNP, I'm not going to follow through with it because, I'll lose interest. So this is the mind map I came up with. I made sure to first start off with my why. So anytime, during the journey, if I'm like, okay, I'm getting demotivated or whatever, I can quickly go here and kind of be like, okay, why am I doing this? So it's things like, earn a higher salary, challenge myself to get out of my comfort zone, have more leeway to travel, get a better work-life balance. Like, I don't have to go into an office anymore.
Right.
Working 100% remote, stuff like that. And then from there, I was just like, what's my vision? And I was like, okay, I want to land a job in cloud. And I did this section because it was literally, okay, I want to land a job in cloud, but I don't know like what job or what role. And I think that's for like a lot of people because my understanding is, cloud is old, but it's new, where there's just so many roles getting created all the time. And then, of course, from company to company, that role can mean something different. And so it's just like, I don't even know what I wanted to do in cloud. So I started kind of coming up with some of these ideas here, just so at least that way I have some ideas. I was thinking like here, I was thinking SRE because a friend of mine, he's an SRE and I kind of like what he does. But then I realized I think more so versus SRE, I'm more interested in being an SME, so a subject matter expert of something. Right now, I'm thinking it might be like automation because I like that a lot. So there's that. And then I was thinking, I put this one in purple because I was like, well, cloud network engineer just makes sense to me since I've done networking. So it's just like, that's probably the one that I can, probably do.
That's the easy one to get into. Come on.
I was like, that probably makes like the most sense versus like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just jump up to like, cloud architect, just like create solutions for people. And then from there, I just have like my goals. So this is kind of like going down my rabbit hole, stuff like completing a JavaScript course, completing a Python course. Here's my complete the SAA course, which I'm still doing. Then from there, it's like doing things like the Cloud Resume Challenge, which I want to rebuild that. I was seeking out cloud projects at work, stuff like that. So yeah, that's the
So
mind map.
when you get ready to go down the Python course path, I have a ton of material for you.
Nice. Nice. Because like Python, I've worked with it because, I started off coding, but, that was like a while ago. And then like, I want to like dive deeper into Python and stuff like that. So like, I've never like messed around with unit testing before. Like I know it exists, but I've never just like done it.
Gotcha.
So things like that. And yeah, that's the mind map.
Very cool. I like that you also have at the bottom, on the bottom right hand there, learn Azure too.
Yes.
A lot of folks. Well, okay. So on the possible job roles, those are not mutually exclusive. You can become a cloud network engineer and then segue into cloud architect or developer. So I like that you have them all up there and that it's not an either or kind of thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks, they stop at like, okay, I learned AWS or I learned Azure. My next thing is actually going to be to learn GCP.
That's actually my next one.
I'm excited to pick up the way that I think about it is everybody knows either AWS or Azure. And it wouldn't be beneficial to me from a fun perspective. Like for my why is I want to learn GCP because that GCP, the Google Cloud was built almost like with developers first from a perspective, like it's not a VPC, it's not a subscription, it's a project. And networking matters, but you can have a 10 dot that like covers the globe. There's a lot of things that are aimed at developer from the developer's perspective, and that's kind of where I want my brain to be. So I think it would be a little bit more different than learning Azure and quote unquote just another cloud. It would be like learning something from a different angle. So that's why I'm going to go for GCP as my next like cert path.
Exactly. And so like with Azure, I was thinking Azure because where I was working before, that's what they use. So it's just like, well, let me learn Azure because that's what they're using. but that actually can get changed to GCP because I'm more interested in that because GCP, I feel like you said, most people know like either AWS or Azure, but Google Cloud is kind of like this new thing people are starting to learn. So I'm kind of like, I want to go learn that. And then they also have so much like free tutorials and stuff like that. Like, matter of fact, I'm supposed to be doing one of their cohort things that they asked me to do. So I'm like, hey, it's free learning, sure. So
Yep, absolutely. Get that SAA first, though.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's first and foremost, and that's the thing I tell people too is try not to learn two cloud platforms at the same time. I don't think that's
Right.
the right thing to do. I think that would be confusing. So
I tried that and it broke my brain. I was miserable for
that, and I hear like with Google Cloud that of course, it's different. So the way you're thinking about how you do stuff in AWS doesn't necessarily translate over to Google. So yeah.
correct. Yep. All right. What's next on your list?
What I got? Let's see. Talked about the structured stuff. Oh, I think this one's a fun topic because I have this conversation a lot with people, and it's the topic of network engineers going to cloud. And typically for me, my conversations with like really like well-seasoned network engineers, they have like their IEs, all this kind of stuff. Um, they just don't want to do it. They're just like, I don't want to learn that, because they're just kind of like, I'm used to like doing what I'm doing, and they're kind of like, I don't want to have to learn coding or automation or all these kind of things or whatever, which, I get it. I was one of those people. I laugh at myself now. So it is what it is. But after like kind of making that jump, I'm like, you know what? If you are a network engineer, I think it's pretty easy to make that jump. Like it's really not that far fetched if you have the willingness to learn and to put in a little effort. I think it just makes sense. And then, of course, just with the climate of where technology is going anyway, it's going to happen. Like,
and you don't have to wait to buy a bunch of switches and routers to populate a data center to go do it. You can just.
it's like all of that. And then even looking at, the new CCNA, because of course I was one of the ones trying to pass the CCNA before it expired to what the CCNA is now. That thing has like tons of automation and stuff in there. So, especially if you're like like a newer network engineer, I think it makes sense where if you want to start thinking about cloud, I think it makes sense.
Agreed.
Oh, I also find myself paying more attention to like actual hardware specifications versus when I used to during like traditional networking, because I would pay attention to hardware specs during my networking days when I needed to buy some equipment. Like I would look at, the spec sheet and go, okay, this is going to do what I needed to do, whatever. But with AWS, it's wild because I start thinking about things like, say, like if I'm doing EC2, I'm thinking about like the different groups with that. So like,
Oh, those kinds of hardware specs.
yeah, like that. So that part's interesting because a lot of times, I don't really just think about like hardware specs like that, but with AWS, when it comes to EC2, it's like stuff you pay attention to depending on what it is you're trying to do.
It's funny that you say that because one of the things that I liked about cloud was not so back in ye olden days. I mean, you would have to like, buy the systems and you'd have to figure out what your core count was and the gigahertz of the chipsets and speeds and feeds of the backplanes and all that stuff. I found that when we transitioned to cloud, we actually thought about it significantly less than prior because yes, you would attach it to, EBS storage or whatever like that to get your storage values, but you did not have to, okay, now I need a 3-par for this rack, and I need another one for that rack, and this one's got to have 12 trays, and it's got to be RAID 6.
Yep.
And that part was exhausting, and
I didn't like
not having that calculator was amazing.
I didn't like it. And so that's what I find interesting, because with AWS, and like learning about EBS and all that kind of stuff, I'm like fighting myself remembering the hardware specs. And I find that funny because yeah, with the traditional stuff, anytime it was time to like overhaul the equipment, change it out and stuff, I'm like, let me go through this.
Dennis, you were worried about speeds and feeds at 2 p.m. today? So he direct messaged me. Dennis just said, ye olden days equals what Dennis did at 2 p.m. today.
Oh man, fun times.
That's and honestly, that's exactly why when I first started getting into cloud, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. The hardware is somebody else's headache.
That part. Absolutely.
Cool. All right, what's next on your list? If I'm going too fast or if I'm going too slow, let me know, because
You're good. You're good. I think that's all the stuff I have like on my list. We went through them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, is there anything else that that your cloud journey has taught you so far that you wanted to tell the audience? Anything that recommendations?
Let's see. That people are awesome, like stuff like that.
Lies. I'm a terrible person.
No kidding, like all on a serious note, because of course there's the different conversations on like Twitter and stuff like that where something's happening where with women in tech, there's like a guy like doing something or whatever, kind of thing. But it's my cloud journey for me is re-showing me once again that for me, fortunately, like throughout my IT like career, for me, guys have been my champions. Like they've been the one helping me. So I think that's awesome. And I like to like share that because I'm always asked about like, oh, well, as a woman in tech, like it must be like rough or difficult and all these kind of things. And I'm like, I know there's like horror stories or whatever out there, but that hasn't been my journey. And the cloud journey is like reminding me of that. So, just to say.
That's awesome. No, I'm really happy to hear that. I've heard the horror stories too, and I'm glad that if in some small part I've helped make that not be as horrible as possible, then
yes.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. But yeah, that's
you make me blush.
Aw, but to follow up, the cheeks in the mail. The check is in the mail. That's funny.
I paid her to say that. Here's your 20.
But yeah, to Graham's point about, but most folks are generally good. I would say that within the cloud community, I feel like in the networking space online, that can get very, very iffy. But really? Yeah, it can. But what I've noticed in the cloud space, it's just all love. Anyone that I've ever like associated with or talked to in the cloud space, it's been all love. They're quick to want to help you like understand and learn stuff. And in the networking space, not so much. But in cloud, that's what it's been. So I'm good.
We're just better.
Glad to hear. So that's been a take away as well. Like clouds has been like fun for me. So
I'm going to use it as a quote for the show. Awesome.
Go for it.
Cool. Well, Shala, thanks for coming on. we had planned to do this episode prior to even starting like the interview process or you coming on. So
yes,
it feels contrived. I mean, if somebody was looking at this from the outside, they'd be going, "Oh, they totally planned this." But we got you scheduled like 3 months ago. So this wasn't some kind of like
nope,
boost the company
nope,
kumbaya marketing PR plan or anything like that.
nope.
For anybody trying to go, yeah, okay, sure, right.
No, like it, because I remember like I was talking to the host, and he was just like, wait, and I was explaining like, doing a show and stuff like that. And I was just like, yo, like this was scheduled like so long ago. And I was like, and plus because you've asked me like, a while back, like, hey, you should come on and stuff like that. So that's just the timing.
Yeah, worked out very well.
Yeah.
Well, it worked out well for me. For you, you were like, really? I got to start my new job and do a show? You're killing me,
Which
Chris.
was fine until my computer died. And I was just like, great.
Oh, Keynote. All right. Well, go fix your iMac. I'm gonna go do some post prod here. Everybody, thanks for showing up. If there was any other questions, let's see. Lots of comments, a lot of smart asses, but no additional questions. Wonderful. All right, folks, have a great night, and we will see you here again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.